Hello, YouTubers and fellow tankers, and welcome to King's Court. I am Shrine King, and today I'm going to be doing a review slash guide of the Chi He, which is the tier 4, um, maybe tier 5. Funny enough, I can't remember offhand now. But I believe it's the tier 4 medium tank Japanese line. So, for those that are new, welcome. And for those who are returning, thank you so much for watching yet another video of mine. Um, what I'm going to be covering is kind of like pros, cons of the tank, how to best play it, stuff like that. Now, for the lower tiers, honestly, it's kind of tough because there normally is not very many pros, and there are typically like what I would consider a lot of cons. But when you relate it to other tanks at tier 4, you just got to bear in mind that they're not necessarily even getting into like their niche yet. So here I'm doing kind of a demonstration of the tank, just kind of showing it, and you'll see here it is tier 4. So glad I was right the first time. And you'll notice it's not very pretty. Not a very cool looking tank. But the pros to these kind of tanks, the kind of things that they're going to be aiming for, is they usually have very good gun depression. They're going to have good accuracy. Uh, well, at least relatively good accuracy later on, right? And they should be able to pump out decent amounts of damage, and they're very mobile. Now, at the tier 4, as you can see, like really, they got a high rate of fire, guns, and stuff like that. And they have stuff that's going to be higher alpha damage, but then like the higher rate of fire with less alpha damage technically comes with higher penetrations. Um, so, yeah, I mean, really at tier 4, it's really all just kind of moderate. So you'll see in this particular case, what's funny is the first turret actually has better side armor in the turret than it does on the next turret, but you still get better view range. And here I'm showing the on the line all the way to the STB1. Um, and where it really starts coming into play, which is pretty typical of most things, right, is once you get to like tier 6, that's really where they start fitting into their niche. Tier 5s are technically where they start to show the signs to it. So, pros to the tank. Well, it is mobile. It can maneuver around pretty quick, which is nice. At least for the tier, right? So tier 4, not a lot of tanks are really that high in speed. There are some that are really good, but not a lot. And you'll see you get like 44 top speed. That's pretty good. For armor itself at tier 4, really having 50 millimeters is not that bad. Like it's pretty good actually. Now, of course, because of the tier and the design, the angling is not all that great. So yeah, it's not too awesome. But I mean, here you'll see like, hey, I'm talking about 50 millimeters of the hull, and then you got like something like, the Matilda, which has 75. Now 75 is crazy good for tier 4. That's actually like heavy tank good. So kind of absurd when you think about it. Not only that, but the angling on the Matilda is perfect. It's awesome. So if I was to like compare, and we talk about like the Lago, you'll see like, hey, the Lago's gun, less rate of fire, same accuracy, higher alpha, and then better penetration as well. So in comparison, not all that amazing, but view range is better as well. But you'll see that armor is not as good. And either is like the engine power. And then if I were to compare this to like, let's say the M3 Lee, the American, well, this thing, it's got a really good gun, right? So it's got decent rate of fire, it's got good penetration, good alpha, but you'll see there it had a .41 dispersion, which is not that great. Then when we talk about like hull armor and stuff like that, on this one in particular, you're seeing it has the same armor as the Chi-He, except for the Chi-He has a turret and the hull. Now, while the M3 Lee looks like it has a turret, it doesn't really count as having a turret because the gun is actually in the side of the tank. It's very weird. So, overall, I mean, it's it's kind of strange, but it's not that bad. Like it's an interesting design and model. So, what are the cons? Well, so the cons to the tank would obviously be, well, one, you're at tier 4, so pretty much, there's a lot of cons. A lot of things are going to be able to pen you, especially at the tier higher or tier 6. Most tier 6 will be able to punish you pretty heavily. Luckily, though, I'm going to show you a fight where you're actually top tier. And that kind of gives you a comparison at the tier, because really any tier 4 against tier 6 is just not really going to perform very well. So, as you can see, getting up to speed, not that bad. Like, I'm keeping up with the lights, so that's pretty good. That's a really good pro. You'll see coming up the hill, right? The particular light there, the Stewart, right? He's going to keep going. He's got a really good engine. But you'll see I'm actually keeping up with the other light. That's not that bad, although I think that's a tier 3. So not horrible, but not super impressive or anything like that. And again, gun depression is really the key factor here, and being able to pump out a decent amount of damage. So like having the rate of fire it does is definitely really awesome. The dispersion, I didn't check and I didn't reference it, but hopefully, as you get higher in tier, the dispersion actually comes lower and lower, making it more to be a better sniper for ranged combat. So, um, yeah, sadly, with these, there isn't really too much I can go into about like, which modules to go first. Honestly, at the lower tiers, you're gonna go through them so quickly, doesn't really matter. Um, so you'll see here, I'm fighting a Lux, already popped off a shot, popped off another shot. You'll see, bam, loaded again every 2.3 seconds. That's a really good reload, especially for being able to pump out, a little bit of like damage here, like 72. And again, like I mentioned, the armor not bad at the tier, right? So now the guy is running high explosives, which is pretty bad choice on his end, right? So yeah, okay, he ran high explosives, but here again, like depression, key thing here, able to depress. But you see here now, here comes like one of the other cons to it. But again, this is tier 4, so I wouldn't expect it to be amazing. The aiming in is a little rough, right? So you'll see it's aiming in. Okay, we'll go over here now. But obviously, I don't have 100% crew, but I am pretty close, so it's pretty sad where like how it's going. But you'll see, hey, 71 damage at the tier, really not that bad. Going against the tier 4 or actually, I'm sorry, tier 4 medium here, just pumping shots into him, no problem. Pumping out those rounds real quick. So that's really nice in the design of the play of the tank. So besides that, I mean, really, what does it come down to? Well, I mean, your vision isn't amazing in comparison to other tanks, so you got to bear in mind that you're not going to really be able to compete against other tanks. Now, getting into another pro, this thing's got a great radio, right? I'm hoping and I believe the line actually will maintain having really good radio, which means it is really intended and meant for super support kind of style tank play. So that means you want to aim for distances, try to be in a position to help your team using your radio. Same thing goes like even if you were in the situation where you are going to be scouting or trying to spot for your team, that's okay too. Just keep it in a position where you're because of your radio that you're able to uh, assist throughout wherever you're at for your team. So, and you'll see here I'm using the hill ridge, and it's just easy pickings here, right? Because while I mentioned the accuracy isn't amazing, it's not bad, right? Especially at the tier, because most of the tanks at the tier are having like zero point 0.4 dispersion, and shell velocity is really not that bad. So that makes it to we're trying to snipe and stuff like that. The distance is not a big deal. So you'll see as I'm firing, most of my rounds are getting to the target pretty quick, and that's really good. So what I would do is try to play the tank towards hills, right? If you can get in a situation where you have good cover, that's always great. Bear in mind that cupola on the top of your tank, which is pretty horrendous looking, that's an easy pickings for anyone who knows how to snipe. Obviously, tanks that you want to watch out for are anything that's tier 5, tier 6, because all of them at tier 5, tier 6, like I said, they start getting into their niche, they start getting some of their power. And what happens here is, yeah, 50 millimeters will never hold up to tier 5 or tier 6. A lot of them are going to start running like 80 to 120 millimeter of penetration. Some even have like 150 millimeters of penetration by that time. So, yeah, you don't want to really try to go toe to toe with those. So, when it comes to that stuff, keep distant. Play to the style of your tank. Maneuver around where you can, flank your enemies, stuff like that. That's the things that you're really trying to aim for. Because you have 50 millimeters at the tier for the tank, honestly, if you're seeing artillery in the match, anything at your tier, you can actually be a little aggressive, right? Because you'll see I'm blocking a lot of shots when it comes to that kind of stuff. But again, It's really only at the tier or lower, so bear that in mind. So at your tier or lower, you can be more aggressive, be more of a frontliner when necessary. When it comes to the higher tiers or going against higher tiers, it's not going to hold up, at least at this tier. There are obviously once you get into tier 5, tier 6, tier 7, and keep moving on, the designs will change a bit because you start getting into the niche of the line, and then play styles can all vary and change from there. So again, I hope this stuff is really useful. When it comes to the lower tiers, I mean, obviously there isn't as much details or information to really cover or to even get in little specifics. So, hope this stuff is helpful. Please like, subscribe, let me know your thoughts, let me know if there's any tanks that you want to see, and I'll catch you next time.